Nobody can ever beat us at being God. I don't think anybody should pay school tax don't have kids or somebody 65 or over. They gotta change the system. How do you feel about them changing the system?
I tell you, you really hit a nerve. When I moved to Ohio, the only bad thing about what I saw was how the schools had to tax your property to get money. To me, that was foreign from the standpoint. I grew up in Chicago, under the original Mayor Daley, and you had taxes paid by property owners, but it wasn't allocated specifically to the school. A lot of the support for the schools came out of the general fund. So I don't know how they, I was too young to really understand how they had things set up, but I'll tell you, we definitely need to change it here. We should take a look at, Chris mentioned the local government fund, I think Belinda did too. When Kasich came into office, what did he do? He cut the local government fund on the backs of the cities and townships and counties and said, hey, I balanced the budget. That's a lot of baloney. We're going through hell right now. So he made it, and next year, by the way, they increased the budget. It didn't go down. I think it's 54 million or something. So he comes in, cuts the local government funding, puts more pressure on our school systems and property tax owners and county commissioners from the standpoint of sales tax, and says, I balance the budget. That's not the way you balance the budget. That's not the way you balance a budget. So we have to have representatives downstate that understand that, and everybody in this room, I think, knows for what, 15 years they've been trying to fix it, and they haven't fixed it. I don't know what the answer is, but I'm against the way it's set up now. It pits the school boards against the property owners. It pits the school administrators against the people who are trying to, pay their bills. We have about a 17% unemployment rate in this country right now if you count the people that they didn't count. People that couldn't find a job and are just out. They're living off their savings. They don't know what to do next. So we have a very serious problem if you look at the total entity of what's going on. And we're not out of it. Everybody, the economy is starting to pick up a little bit, but we're not out of this. And we have to be very careful how we handle it. And I don't think raising taxes is the way to go in this present economy at all. We've got to fix the school problems, and we've got to change that tax structure, and it has to be done by the legislature downstate. It can't be done by the commissioners or anyone else. That's the key to this whole thing. I wish I had a specific answer, but I've had like 5 or 6 different remedies that people threw out over the last 10 years, and nothing seems to be sticking to the wall, you know what I mean?
I also believe that the funding of schools through property taxes is inequitable at best. Certainly you have parents who, or well, not parents, you have people in general, individuals, couples who never have children, people who grow old without children, but then there are others who have children. There are others who have children who can't begin to provide those kids with a good education, and I think that it is beholden to us, on some level, to all of us, to ensure that our future is secure in the knowledge and the education that our kids get. How it's done is a whole other thing. Certainly the treasurer's office, or even on local, as Bob said, on a local basis, that can't be dealt with. And yes, it should be dealt with that is certainly more equitable to everybody, but I think at the very core of that is our children. They're our future. They're our future, and so we have to be careful about what we take away from all of that. The local government fund actually, in its original, when it was actually put into play in the 1930s, was intended for poor relief, school funding, and local government. And a little closer to that, I think, would be grand. It would take the burden off of us in terms of our taxes and such. But ultimately, our children are our future.
Do I get more than 4 minutes? Boy, I can speak for a really long time on this topic. The funding for schools has been ruled unconstitutional 6 times in the state of Ohio. How do we fix that? We don't fix it at the school board level. We, at the school board level, and I'm speaking because I'm on a school board, we live within the rules that are set forth, and we have to assess property taxes because that's how we get our funding. 50% of our of our school budget is coming from property taxes. The other 50% comes from various different sources. Do we get our money from the state? Out of a $40 million budget, we get $6 million from the state. We used to get personal property taxes from the state, but they cut that. They cut our funding. We lost close to $2 million out of our budget, and over the course of the past 2 years, we've lost 10% of our budget funding from the state. How do we fix that? Again, like everybody else has said, we try and tell people that we need to talk to our state legislators because they're the ones who hold the power and who hold the ability to regulate education. The school board has absolutely no authority over the regulation of education and how it gets taxed or how it gets financed. The problem at that level is people who go to Columbus and get elected want to get reelected. Okay, obviously I don't want to say that's part of the problem, but it is part of the problem. In order to get reelected, they would actually have to do something that would probably be unpopular. In order to fix the budgetary holes, they would probably have to either A, cut programs that people are very, pet programs perhaps, that people are very used to having, or B, raise taxes. And when somebody says raise taxes, it's either you raise taxes at the state level or it funnels down until you start coming down at the local level and you raise taxes at the local level. And the people at the local level don't want that as assessed on property. Would it be better if we at the school board level went and said we will tax income? We have discussed that. We also went to the county commissioners at one point as a school board and asked if they would pass a countywide sales tax to fund some of the things in schools. We are very proactive in how we go about trying to look for things that we can do to offset some of the things that the state has done. But in order to figure out how to do that, you have to go to the legislature. You know, just as an aside, one of the things that we have done, for example, is we now do Medicare billing, or Medicaid billing, I'm sorry. So when we have children who have special needs and we can provide services that they would get elsewhere, we actually bill Medicaid. So we look at those sorts of things and we do everything that we can in an innovative manner, but property taxes is the way schools are funded. And again, 6 times it's unconstitutional, but there's really not much that we can do about it until legislators decide that they would actually like to tackle that problem.
No, why don't you give a mic to Bob, and why don't each of you take 2 minutes to give like a closing statement, and then that will conclude every portion of the program.
We talked about a lot of things here today. I would say, if you trust me as your county treasurer, I will do everything in my power to help protect every tax dollar you get. The county gets money, it has to be collected expeditiously, it has to be invested. If you don't invest it, you're wasting a lot of money. I mentioned earlier, there's $1.5 million more if we can just raise it by 1%. Running the office efficiently is important. I think the people in the office should be involved if any changes are made before anything is done to get their input. I think computerization, a new computer program is important. That's not a small task. A computer system is a humongous task, especially for a county government. So if I could do something to get the seed sown and do something to start the ball going to where I can show if we get this system in, we save this much more money, get the commissioners interested in it, something can be done there. I'll tell you this though, one of the things I do if I am elected is to be there for you. I'll give you, do what John Crocker does, I'll give you my home phone number and my office phone number, I'll be there 24/7. And I've served as as trustee of Concord Township for 4 years, and I found out that was supposedly a part-time job, but a full-time job really, because people called you all the time. Public life is very important. You have to have the will, you have to want to make the sacrifice and give back to the community.
We've we've gone a huge gamut of different